The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Without its original frequencies, what will the future look like for ABS-CBN if it does manage to bag a franchise in the next administration? Juan Gualvez tells us in this report.
Former DICT Secretary Eliseo Rio tells One News The Chiefs that ABS-CBN can still apply for a digital frequency in 2023, but it must first be given a franchise. But Rio says the shift from analog to digital would have started by then. And because of this, ABS-CBN may have to wait in line longer to get new frequencies.
2023 pa ma-approve, no? So that I think explains the reason bakit may lag, no? It's not, I think, the long line, but actually because we will only have digital TV on 2023.
But it's not just analog TV that will be phased out. Rio says congressional franchises may no longer be needed in the future.
Right now, technology is showing us that, you know, a private person can really broadcast, have as many subscriber as ABS-CBN, as long as he has the content, no, that people are interested in.
National Telecommunications Commission Deputy Commissioner Edgardo Cabarrios presents another option. On One News Business World Live, Cabarrios said ABS-CBN can also apply to share transmitters with other networks.
When you transition digital, you have 38 channels, and each of these channels can accommodate 6 programs. So that means if each company has one program, there are more than 200 companies that can be accommodated. They can talk to 3 or 4 companies with authorizations and build a single common transmitter and share the cost.
Cabarrios also says there is no reason to challenge the NTC's decision to award ABS-CBN's frequencies in court because what the commission has done is legal.
Well, everything is above board. You know? First is the vacated frequencies, no? Because the franchise of ABS-CBN expired and no renewal. And the authorizations were cancelled, and the Spectrum TV channels and radio AM and FM channels were recalled. And more than 1 year already. So this remain unutilized. These are limited public resource.
For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Meanwhile, Partido Federal ng Pilipinas General Counsel Attorney George Briones explains his only issue with Commissioner Guanzon is that she announced her vote early. Speaking to The Big Story, Briones said that since the COMELEC has yet to release its decision on Marcos's case, Commissioner Guanzon should not have publicized her vote to disqualify their presidential candidate, Bongbong Marcos Jr.
Our only issue, it is wrong to announce your vote in a decision that has not been promulgated.
One election lawyer takes on the same view, saying that there may be disciplinary consequences for COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon for publicly airing her vote to disqualify Bongbong Marcos Jr. Speaking to 1PH sa Totoo Lang, election lawyer Attorney Buko de la Cruz said that it was highly unusual for a member of the commission to disobey the sub judice rule, which prohibits any communication about a pending case. He added that this could only serve to sway the votes of other commissioners.
Merong tinatawag tayong sub judice rule, no, na hindi dapat pag-usapan ang isang usapin, ang isang kaso na pending pa at anumang pahayag natin na maaaring maka-impluwensya sa desisyon ay labag sa panuntunan ng komisyon. Karaniwang ginagawa diyan ay dinidisiplina, sinususpindi o dinidisbar ng Korte Suprema.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The government has laid down new rules for travelers arriving in the Philippines. Starting February 1st, fully vaccinated travelers will no longer be subject to facility-based quarantine upon arrival. They just have to present their vaccination certificates and a negative RT-PCR test taken within 48 hours prior to departure from the country of origin. Still, they will need to self-monitor for any signs or symptoms for 7 days and report to the local government unit of destination if there are any symptoms. Meanwhile, partially vaccinated or unvaccinated travelers will still be required to undergo facility-based quarantine until the release of their RT-PCR test taken on the 5th day upon arrival. Now, if negative, they will undergo home quarantine until the 14th day after their arrival. Meanwhile, kids under 12 years old will follow the quarantine protocol applied to the parent or guardian traveling with them. Experts are now studying two Omicron sister variants. Johns Hopkins' Andrew Pikosh tells us what this could mean for the world's fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Let's watch this.
I usually don't like to be the messenger telling people that there are new variants either, but the virus is sort of doing its own thing out there and evolving as we expected. So Omicron has I've heard it called a sister virus. It's called technically BA2, whereas Omicron that we've been struggling with is called BA1. It's different enough from the original Omicron so that we are a little bit worried about how well immunity cross-reacts to that virus. And it's certainly starting to spread now in the wake of that first Omicron going through the population. So all signs point that vaccine should work just as well against it. But again, it is increasing in numbers, so we're trying to monitor what disease severity will be and all those other factors to really get a sense of how much of an impact it might have.
Andy, where are the variants coming from? And I ask this meaning, what areas have the level of lack of immunity and also the level of transmission that would possibly lead to some of these variants?
Well, there are three variants that we call Omicron right now, all of which seem to have evolved around the same time in some part of southern Africa and all emerged around the same time. We saw one sweep through the world. We're seeing a second one coming through right now. So these Omicron variants all came up at the same time. What we're seeing, though, is, as expected, as this virus moves through the population, if it picks up a mutation that makes it a little bit better to infect or makes it a little bit more easier to infect vaccinated people, that virus will become the dominant virus eventually. And so we're seeing some of that right now. We have to remember there have been an amazingly large number of cases, and more cases equals more mutations equals more variants. So we're seeing some of the fallout from those huge numbers of cases in terms of new variants emerging and starting to spread.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 10:15 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.